Alright, so I'm shooting this video at 10 p.m. on a Friday because I just got the details from Modon for the next phase of Tara Park in Reem Island. And I actually really like this project. I think it's an amazing entry point into the Abu Dhabi real estate market, especially for those with a limited budget. So we are going to be talking about it today. The actual launch is happening next Wednesday. So if you are seeing this before that, you still have a chance to secure a unit then. But before we would get into the project, I just want to touch really quickly on the elephant in the room, the conflict. How has it affected the Abu Dhabi real estate market? So I would be lying if I said nothing changed. We have definitely seen a big drop in the overall volume of transactions, but honestly it's not that bad if you ask me. Like, we are kind of back at where we were in the beginning of last year in terms of transaction volume, actually even higher than that. I don't think it's fair to look at last month because like Abu Dhabi real estate market did a record quarter one. But of course, a lot of these transactions were committed to before the situation started. So I think looking at April is a pretty fair assessment, and it's not looking bad at all. Like, again, of course, it's not as high as January or December was, but it's also not as low as what I personally expected. Also on the secondary market, we haven't really seen any like crazy distressed deals in Abu Dhabi. What you see as distressed is just people removing the 20 or 30% crazy markups that they were putting on beforehand. Like, some people were just inflating their listings anyways. And again, what kind of counts as distressed in Abu Dhabi is maybe some people selling like 10% under OP, like maybe a couple of those deals happened, but not much, to be honest. Again, what's mainly been happening is just people selling it at OP prices and cutting down the premiums that they were putting on beforehand. So yeah, overall, Abu Dhabi market held up a lot better than Dubai market. And also another amazing piece of news was that there was actually this headline that global investors with 20 trillion in assets press ahead with the Middle East expansion despite Iran war. So companies like BlackRock and State Street said that the conflict does not change their perspective on UAE and broader regional markets. Now let's talk about Tara from Modon. So it is basically 6 towers on Reem Island. It's directly opposite of Reem Mall, so it's a very central location. And in my opinion, it's quite an undervalued opportunity at the moment, and I will tell you why. Modon decided to do a 40/60 payment plan. So they didn't cut prices, which was expected. Pretty much none of the major developers are going to be cutting their entry prices. But I think even the first phase of Tara was, fairly priced, around 1,700 per square foot. The new projects on Reem are launching quite a lot higher than that, and it's an entry point at around 1.6 million dirhams into Abu Dhabi on Reem Island, into a really nice community. The handover is only in 2030, so you have a long way to go. Like, this whole conflict and all of this is going to be essentially forgotten, in my opinion, by the time this actually hands over. And we have a very friendly 40/60 payment plan with only 5% down, and you only need to put 5% in this whole year, right? Which is crazy. Again, it's directly opposite of Reem Mall. It's in the ADGM jurisdiction. You have an amazing park next to it. You have a university, you have a clinic, you have a school. It's a really good location as a whole. Now, again, let's talk about the actual product, because in order for an investment to be good, the location is important, the thesis behind it is important, but the actual product needs to be solid as well. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. Again, we have 6 towers in total at the heart of Reem Island, and this is made by the master plan community expert Modon, who is also developing Hudayriyat Island, which was the #1 selling project in all of Abu Dhabi in Q1 so far. They're doing 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. And it's also, again, right next to Reem Mall, where you have access to 400 plus shops, restaurants, and entertainments. And this is going to be really, in my opinion, an end user community. So this is going to be a place where families are going to live, where maybe the husband or the wife is working at ADGM, the financial district, and they want to be nearby, but they also want more of a family-centric and really friendly community. In terms of the sizing, it's actually really solid sizes. So one beds are minimum 81 square meters all the way up to 103 square meters. So right around 1,000-ish square foot. Two beds are 120 to 214, and three beds are 186 to 238 square meters. So they are actually really big layouts. One thing we've seen recently happening in Abu Dhabi as well is with some of the newer projects, they are launching tiny one beds like 500, 600 square foot. Here we are getting proper like 1,000 or close to 1,000 square foot, or even way higher than that at reasonable prices still. In terms of the design, it's Modon. You can expect it to be amazing. We have really nice, bright, contemporary designs. It's an open plan living in the kitchen and the living room. Very clean design, as I said, elegant, and they also have freestanding tubs in the larger units in the bathroom, which is pretty unique. In terms of the actual community, I think this is something that stands out to me because most of the buildings on Reem Island, from my experience, like they don't offer that much of a community feel. It's more like just buildings, people live in them, but there isn't too many spaces that you could use or too amazing amenities. And also most of the existing buildings are older, which is why there is a good opportunity to invest into off-plan there at the moment. So you have an amazing outdoor pool, and it's kind of like a resort style, huge pool, and you also have a kids pool area as well. You have paddle court, you have also indoor and outdoor gyms as well. You have resident social lounges, you have a co-working and study zone, you have a kids club, you can directly walk into Reem Mall as well. You have like drop-off area and also water features and a really amazing looking lobby. I will show some images of all of these here in full screen as well. So in terms of the design, it's top notch, and I think also in terms of the actual quality that you will be getting, it's going to be really nice. Again, we are talking about Modon, a government-backed developer, one of the biggest. It's kind of like the equivalent of Amar in Dubai. Now again, the payment plan. Now this is what get me really excited. So you only have a 5% payment you need to put down in 2026. So all of this year, 5% plus the 2% ADM fee, which is actually half of what it is in Dubai, with Dubai's 4%. So 2% ADM plus 5% for the reservation. And then the next installment is only coming in January of 27. So you have a long way to go, a long time until you need to do the next payment and installment. And then it's basically 5% every 6 months until handover. And then on handover, when you get the keys and everything, then you need to put 60% down. So you get a really amazing amount of leverage with this payment plan. It's really obvious that the reason why Modon is offering this is to compensate for the current situation in the region, right? And get investors' confidence back. And I think this is exactly what they needed to do, right? Like you have almost 4 years or until this project actually hands over. How likely is it that right next to ADGM on Reem Island, prices are going to be the same or lower than what they are right now? It's very unlikely if you ask me. You don't need to put too much capital into it at all. And you can even potentially, depending on your situation, mortgage the handover payment. So, even if prices, let's just assume, even if prices only went up 20% or 15% in that area on Reem Island until handover, because you only put in 40%, while your actual cash on cash return is going to be way higher than that, of course. Again, a good product in the wrong location is still a bad investment. A good product in the right location at the right time is where real returns are made. So I have put together in this presentation 4 layers that stack on top of each other that make this, in my opinion, a solid investment for someone who has a more limited budget to enter the Abu Dhabi market. So First one is Abu Dhabi's state-backed economy and also supply discipline. Second, ADGM, the actual common law jurisdiction that Reem Island now falls into. Then also the expansion that they are doing on Al Mari Island, which is right next door. And then also the demand that is going to be there in a few years as well for this unit. So these are the 4 layers. I'm going to talk about each one of the layers in a second. Now, some people ask me like, why would I buy off plan in this current situation instead of trying to get a distressed deal secondary market unit? And that's a totally fair question. And I think for some people, if you can actually find an incredible asset that's distressed, then buy it, right? If you can actually buy an amazing unit in an amazing location at a good price, you should buy that. You should not be buying off plan if you can do that. But there is so few of those on the market. I haven't even really seen any, to be honest, that came across my desk that were like actually amazing. Most of the time, what you see as distressed is, I mean, not to be rude, but it's like a shitty studio in JVC that was already overpriced by 30% in the first place, and now the owner is just trying to get out at whatever price. You know, the actually amazing assets, which are going to do well in the next years, those haven't really dropped that much. Like maybe they go back to actual OP price or OP minus a little bit, but you haven't really seen those crazy drops in that segment. So in my opinion, a really favorable payment plan on a good product in a good area is just as good, right? Like what we are getting here from Modon with this friendly of a payment plan from a government-backed developer, I think it makes sense, right? I would rather get at full price an amazing asset and pay it over a very long time so I have a high leverage on my capital than get a shitty asset that's cheaper than the original overpriced price that it was bought at. Anyways, let's talk about the macro Abu Dhabi, why it is in Dubai and why that's actually a good thing. So the amount of new units that are coming to Dubai between 26 and 29 is estimated to be up to 366,000 units, right? And a lot of that is apartment. The majority of that is apartments. If we look at Abu Dhabi in that same time frame, it's only 30 to 40,000 units max, right? New units that we are talking about in these 3 years. So it's around 10 times less units that are going to be hitting the market in Abu Dhabi in the next few years. But if we look at the amount of new residents from last year, Dubai added roughly around 220,000 new residents, right? A good amount. It's growing really rapidly. But if we look at Abu Dhabi, it added around 160 to 180,000 new residents. So you can see on this graph that it's not that much less people that Abu Dhabi is growing by, but the supply that's coming to Abu Dhabi is drastically different. So there is essentially a 10-to-1 imbalance of supply and demand towards Abu Dhabi. It's a much more regulated market. The developers cannot just launch left and right and flood the market with new units, unlike in Dubai. And it's also a very stable economy. It's a state-backed economy with deep sovereign wealth fund reserves like Mubadala, ADIA, and also Lemad Holdings. So they are aggressively diversifying into finance, tech, culture, and tourism. And the capital is pouring into Abu Dhabi. They control around $1.8 trillion in sovereign wealth fund. That's around $440,000 per person in Abu Dhabi. So essentially Abu Dhabi, even if this conflict carried on and they didn't make money from anywhere, they could survive just from the sovereign wealth fund, right? If they just got a modest 5% a year return on their $1.8 trillion, they would be chilling and they wouldn't really need to worry, but that's obviously not going to happen. So that's the macro case that is going for Abu Dhabi, the supply and the demand discrepancy compared to Dubai. Also, if we look at the inflows, right, Q1 was a record. It was actually a 242% year-on-year increase, and I've been talking about Abu Dhabi for a long time to my friends and investors as well. So yeah, like it clearly shows that people are catching on to this. All the money is pouring in from all these different countries like UK, Russia, India, China, Jordan, France, and Egypt as well. It's not a speculative market riding hype. It's a state-backed economy with deep reserves and serious international capital. And on top of this, you also have a 17-year head start. So when it comes to freehold property ownership for expats, in Dubai, it has been allowed since 2002. In Abu Dhabi, it's only been allowed since 2019. So there is a 17-year difference between the two markets. It's a lot less of a mature market compared to Dubai, which means that you can get in at more like a ground floor pricing, and you have structurally tighter supply as well. So that's also something that's in your favor. The second layer I wanted to touch on is ADGM. So this is what not many people are talking about. There is currently 12,000 active licenses in ADGM. By the way, if you don't know, ADGM is Abu Dhabi Global Markets. It's kind of like the equivalent of DIFC in Dubai. So they have 12,000 active licenses for all sort of financial companies and investment firms and stuff like that. And that was a 30% year-over-year growth. So they added 30% of all the licenses there. The workforce is now over 44,000 people. That was a 51% year-over-year increase. The assets under management grew 36% in 2025, and the number of financial institutions based in ADGM is 347 now. And Reem Island, where Tara Park is right next to Al Maria Island, the home to Abu Dhabi's global markets, right? The Middle East's largest and also Africa's largest international financial center by active licenses. So we have the biggest companies here: BlackRock, JP Morgan, and so on as well. And on top of this, Binance was actually the first crypto exchange globally to be licensed by ADGM last December. So the reason why ADGM is really enticing for international investors is because you have the common law framework here, right? So you don't have Sharia law, you have English common law here. So all the contracts are in English, you have independent courts, and also international arbitration. So even now you have 44,000 finance professionals living 5 minutes away from this location where Tara is. But when it's handing over in 4 years, I can almost bet that it's going to be like 80 to 100,000 people who will all need homes. And yes, there is supply coming to Reem, but it's not that much supply that's coming, right? There is a lot of people who are coming to work here. On top of this, there is also a 60 billion dirham expansion that was committed to not too long ago between Mubadala and also Aldar. It's their joint venture to expand Al Maria Island. So the north side of Al Maria Island holds the final undeveloped plot, nearly 500,000 square meters of land. And so they are going to be just building that whole thing and fully filling it up. There's going to be almost 500,000 square meters of grade A office spaces, a lot of new car spaces as well. So yeah, I mean, you can see it all on the screen. It's going to be amazing. Let's talk about the demand side of it, because that's something we should always be thinking about when investing, of course. Like, who is actually going to buy this apartment for more money than we are buying it from us in a few years? And also, if we want to rent it, who is going to rent it from us, right? These are very important questions that a lot of people forget to ask. In terms of renting it, we can rent it to all of these finance professionals, right? Who are maybe mid-level executives working in ADGM, or we can even Airbnb it in a few week chunks to people who are coming on work travel to Reem Island potentially, or you can also lease it long-term to them, right? On long-term rentals. You're going to get premium prices because the finance professionals have higher price tolerance. Reem Island is even right now where you can get some of the highest yields in Abu Dhabi. The vacancy risk is low because the workforce is growing so rapidly, and it's year-round demand, right? The people who are working there full-time, they always need that apartment. There is no tourism cliff, or even if something happens in the region, like what happened now, which is kind of the worst case scenario that I think a lot of people expected or didn't expect, right? Even if something like that happens, like people are still continuing to go into work, they still get their stuff done, their families still living there, so those people are not going to just disappear overnight. And also for these end users, right, Tara is going to be a genuine community. It's not just a cluster of investor-held empty apartments. People will actually want to live here and need to live here. So whether we want to rent it out, there is going to be demand for it very likely because of ADGM's expansion and how many jobs are being created here. And if we want to sell it, well, there is going to be definitely a big demand, even for people who want to buy these things, right? Cool. Now I want to talk about Reem Island a little bit more and add a little bit of caution in here. So you don't just want to buy Reem Island at random, because if you don't buy the right project at the right time, you can still go wrong, even if you are in an amazing market like Abu Dhabi. It's a fragmented supply because Reem Island's plots were sold to different developers, kind of like in JVC in Dubai, right? And there is also kind of a lot of supply that's coming to Reem Island. It's not that much, like overall the population growth is outpacing it, but you have to be cautious with going with the right developer who can deliver the right quality, because not every development is going to be the same quality, and also at the right entry price, right? Because if you buy something too high, who is going to buy it from you for even more in a couple of years? And that's why I like this project, because Modon is a proven developer with an amazing track record, sovereign wealth fund backing, a lot of experience, right? They are offering it at a reasonable price with an amazing payment plan. And yeah, they can deliver quality. They have proven that. So overall, 5 reasons why I like it and why it fits for me as an investment case for someone who wants to get a 1-bed in Abu Dhabi and get into this market. Number 1, again, the state-backed economy, the deep sovereign wealth fund reserves, and the surging foreign-derived investment. Then the second one is the jurisdiction. It's a very unique area where you have ADGM common law framework applied, which is trusted by institutional capital. Then third, we have the catalyst as well, which is going to make a lot of growth happen. Just to show you, by the way, here's an actual article on this about this 60 billion dirham expansion that is going to be happening here on Al Marja Island. So that's the third point, the catalyst, this huge expansion that is happening right next door, which is going to help to multiply the workforce who will all need places to live. Then the tenant profile, it's a great tenant profile with finance professionals, long leases, stable and year-round demand. And then the fifth one is the low entry point of 1.6 million with only 5% down and a 40-60 payment plan, and 60% not being due until the 2030 handover, or you could also potentially finance it, right? So at the end of the day, you decide if this fits your strategy. If you want help with floor plans, availability, you want some help with running the numbers or just looking at different alternatives, feel free to reach out to me on WhatsApp in the description down below. I'm more than happy to help you with getting the exact unit that you want. But yeah, who would I recommend this for? I would recommend this from someone who doesn't have 5, 10, 15 million dirhams to spend in the Abu Dhabi market, wants something that's pretty predictable. It's going to be a good quality asset in a great area with good demand that there is going to be for it, good yields, and also looking like we are going to get some good appreciation there as well in this time frame, as there is so much capital pouring into this area. Oh, and not to mention, there's also metro that's coming on Reem Island, so that's going to be a nice bonus as well. So hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about it. Don't forget, the launch is happening on next Wednesday, so if you're watching this months after, I highly doubt there is any wombats, but feel free to reach out still and we will find something for you.